This is Gerardo Del Real with The Outsider Club. Joining me today is the CEO of Cordoba Minerals, Mr. Mario Stifano. Mario, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me here.
Thoughts on the conference? We're here at the Beaver Creek Precious Metals Conference. What do you think thus far?
Look, I'm pleasantly surprised. The turnout is fantastic, and the enthusiasm, I think, for the metal sector and gold sector, I think is surprisingly strong. So, I'm hoping that we're at the bottom of this cycle. Right, there's quite a bit of interest now, and you're starting to see people do some bottom fishing, which is typical of a bottom.
I want to start by addressing something that's it's happening in real time, an unfortunate situation in Colombia. Your San Matias district scale land package is in Colombia, and Continental Gold had some tough news, frankly, where people lost their life and a couple of people were kidnapped. And again, this is happening in real time, so that may change. Yeah. But as far as we know it's not a good situation there. Your project being in Colombia, can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's very disheartening and very sad to see lives lost for people doing their work and exploring in the country trying to find metals, and very unfortunate where the individuals were killed is in an area called Berlin. It's north of Baritica. It was in an area where there were quite a bit of FARC. And Continental was doing the right thing. It's an exciting deposit that they have there. The security situation hasn't been the best, but working with the government, what I understand they wanted to do was reintegrate the FARC, ex-FARC members back into the community and create jobs. And Royal Road is working on something similar in the southern part of Colombia. But unfortunately, a really bad circumstance happened with some geologists just doing their day-to-day job, were killed by likely some ex-FARC members. So our situation is quite different. We're in northern Colombia, we're in flatland, we have lots of infrastructure near us. We've never had any security issues, we've never had any FARC in our area. So our security situation has always been strong. But it's always disheartening to see any life lost anywhere in the world when it comes to people just doing their day-to-day jobs.
Now, when I was in Colombia, your security situation was actually very professionally handled. You contracted a lot of it out. The military was involved. Correct. That was about a year and a half or two ago. What does that look like today?
It's the same situation. We always have the military help us with security, and it actually supports the military. You basically indirectly help them with their food. Colombia's got the largest standing military in Latin America. So the military has been extremely supportive. We do still consult a lot or contract out our security. And we also have in-house security detail as well. Our view is always with the peace process in the country, not in our area in particular, but in the country, things were likely to get worse before they got better, because you had all these individuals that are part of the FARC, and now they're leaving this organization, and they're all going to fight to try and set up their own organizations, drug trade. So now it's really up to the government to ensure that these people have, real life valuing jobs, and that's really what I think Continental Gold was trying to do in the Berlin area. But look, we're really hopeful. We're very confident that Colombia is the place to be for exploration. We know there's going to be a few hiccups when it comes to security in areas that were dominated by the FARC. We're not there within Cordoba, but in the future, there is a lot of exploration in those areas, and you really want to get peace all over the country, so it really opens up the country for exploration.
Switching gears a bit on a less serious note, tough markets right now. Cordoba share price has suffered. Yep. You and I had disagreements about the deal with HPX and the share structure, right?
Correct.
But there's some good news and some good things happening now that hopefully will right that ship. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, look, I mean, we always wanted to have 100% ownership of the project because we thought in the long run, and this is an industry that requires patience, particularly in our area where northern Colombia has never been explored by anyone until we came around. So, our age of the rocks are quite different. We're in Cretaceous versus the rest of Colombia's Jurassic. So we're in a learning process within northern Colombia, but we're making tremendous strides now, really trying to understand what's happening at San Matias. We refocused in the northern part of San Matias back to Alacran and the Montiel district because we're seeing some things that are very exciting for us. That's reconfirming to us that we're in a Porphyry district. And I mentioned it to you previously on our last phone interview, but within Alacran now, the artisanal miners have opened up a breccia. And from that breccia, we can clearly see now there is a fault, which has reconfirmed to us that Alacran has likely been thrusted up to the east. Right. And the depth potential of Alacran should be somewhere to the west. In addition to that, though, now within the breccia and the core, we're seeing some porphyry clasts. And what that means is, as you had the intrusion coming in, the intrusion was picking up rocks and it was picking up mineralized porphyry. So we now know with some greater confidence that there is a porphyry nearby Alacran. And that may be in addition to or may be related to the porphyry that is potentially at Montiel. And I mentioned to your readers previously that at Montiel, we think we misinterpreted what Montiel really was. Where we thought it was a porphyry, it's really porphyry related in the sense of with the fault that we now see at Alacran, with the intrusions coming up in the district, you had fluids coming up through the fault that created the Montiel outcrop, which you walked over, which is high-grade outcrop.
Right.
Within there's also quartz vein on the edge of this, which is intriguing as well because it's running around 7 meters of 2%, 2.5 grams gold and 2% copper. And to the west of there, we're now seeing another quartz vein being mined by some artisanal miner called Mina Parita. And in and around that quartz vein, we're seeing some polymetallics, according to their artisanal miners. So all this is starting to come together because what we're thinking is to the west of Montiel, an area that we call way out west, where we got this really large silver and solar anomaly. The only area in our district that we have a large silver and solar anomaly, and we've run zero geophysics over this area because we never viewed it as a target. We're now seeing quite a bit of gold in the soils and the streams. We have artisanal miners penning for gold for us. We're seeing disseminated chalcopyrite in the area as well. So it's reinforcing to us this theory that Montiel was leakage from the porphyry. We were drilling a porphyry that wasn't there, and that's why we didn't find the rest of Montiel. So that's pretty exciting for us. So going forward for the readers, what's really going to be a catalyst here, by the middle of November, we hope to have some drill targets identified for the Montiel area now and the western part of Alacran, looking for the rest of Alacran, but more importantly, the porphyry. We are very, very confident now that there's a porphyry somewhere nearby Alacran. We just got to find it. That's always the hard part. But before, there was really no evidence. But today, we're seeing evidence that there's a porphyry nearby at Alacran.
Perfect. Now, switching gears again, you also recently joint ventured with a company named Bell Copper.
Correct.
On a very exciting copper target that it's a hit or a miss. It's
a hit or miss. It's a very binary type decision. For your readers, feel free to research. They have some great presentation on a company called Bell Copper. They have a project that we're now calling Perseverance in Arizona, and that's really named after now the CEO, Tim Marsh, who's been working on this project since 2005, trying to determine where this porphyry is. Companies were drilling this in the 60s because the footwall has been exposed. And based on the mineralization of the footwall, it's clear from what I understand from a geological perspective that it's a monster. I mean, this is a 4 by 5 kilometer type alteration with a pyrite zone. So we know this is a monster, but nobody's ever been able to find the copper. And Tim Marsh, over the 12 years, figured out that the mineralization was likely thrusted to the east by 9 kilometers, not 100 meters, not 200 meters, 9 kilometers. So it's taken them 12 years to figure this out. And Rio Tinto drilled some holes there, and they walked in 2017 and more or less destroyed the project. But what we think happened, and look, we're never sure what happened, but it looks like they only drilled the pyrite shell, and they never really tested the copper shell. And I'm sure there's reasons why they felt they didn't need to test the copper shell, but we don't think it was ever tested. So we're going to put one hole in there, K20, where drilling has already started. And if it hits, it's a monster. If it doesn't, well, then we know it's not there, and we go on to the next one. But this was such an interesting project for us to venture into, just because the size of the prize is absurd.
And just to be clear, the focus is still in Colombia.
Oh, the focus is always in Colombia. I mean, we're working hard. We got boots on the ground, working all over Montiel and Alacran. Gene Schmidt, who's our new VP of Exploration, has been with us since April. An older gentleman, but man, the guy is damn smart. One of the smartest geos I ever met. But more importantly, he knows the modern tools, which is geophysics, but what he knows that I think modern geos don't know is the old tools, which is like panning for gold.
Right.
The reason why we got these new targets at Montiel and Alacran is because he went panning for gold using artisanal miners. No one ever did that before. And that's how we found, because remember, in our area, there's quite a bit of cover.
Right.
So there's no outcropping. So it's really hard to try and find targets in our district. But panning for gold, you follow the mineralization, and the mineralization will take you to the deposit, and that's what we've been doing. That's how we've now started to figure out what's happening at Alacran and Montiel. So it's quite exciting times for us.
Mario, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Looking forward to a better market.
Always a pleasure.
And looking forward to getting those rigs turning back at San Matias.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thanks, Mario.
Thanks.
All right.